3 weeks left in the season, and the Raiders' entire future could change based on what happens next. ESPN insiders just dropped some major intel about Tom Brady's plans for this team, and it's not looking good for Antonio Pierce, but that's just the beginning. Sources close to a top college quarterback prospect are saying he's eyeing Las Vegas, and there's a former first-round pick who's quietly starting to dominate. The next few weeks, they could change everything for the Raiders. What's up, buddies? Welcome back. If you are new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We cover all AFC West news here on this channel. All right, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler believes Mike Vrabel is being seriously connected to the Raiders' head coaching position. And here's where it gets interesting. Tom Brady appears to be the driving force behind this. Look, when we talk about NFL rumors, I always say we need to piece things together like a puzzle. And right now, there's a lot of smoke around Vrabel and the Raiders. According to ESPN's report, Vrabel's name is hot in coaching circles right now. While some think he might end up in Dallas if they move on from Mike McCarthy, others are pointing to Las Vegas as his landing spot, potentially replacing Antonio Pierce after just one season. Here's what's crucial. Tom Brady, who's now a minority owner of the Raiders, is reportedly heavily involved in these coaching decisions. And remember, Brady and Vrabel were teammates back in the day. That connection matters. But wait, there's more to this story. Hondo Carpenter, and trust me, this isn't someone who just throws rumors around, dropped this bombshell on December 18th. According to him, if Pierce gets fired, Brady already knows exactly who he wants: Mike Vrabel. The timing here is really interesting. Both these reports dropped on December 18th, Hondo's info and ESPN. That's not a coincidence. It suggests multiple sources are hearing the same thing. Let me share exactly what Hondo said, because this is pretty significant. He mentioned that people who know Tom Brady well have told him that if Pierce gets terminated, Brady already has his guy picked out. Sure, they'll have to go through the formal interview process, but the decision might already be taken. Let's be honest about this situation. Mike Vrabel makes the most sense here. Last year, emotions drove the decision-making process. The entire Raider Nation, even those who had doubts, wanted Antonio Pierce to succeed. He embodies what it means to be a Raider, and that resonated with everyone. But it's time to look at this situation objectively. The results haven't met expectations, and the team needs someone with proven NFL head coaching experience. Vrabel brings exactly that to the table. And here's the thing. This Vrabel connection isn't new. This isn't the first, second, or even third time his name has come up with the Raiders. I know some of you might not be following every detail. It's been a tough season, and I get that. So let me break down everything you need to know about this situation. Let's walk through this Vrabel timeline. Going back to January 18th, Vrabel was already linked to this job. There was a report that Tom Brady wanted the Raiders to hire him. Mike Florio, who's really plugged into NFL circles, said something interesting back in January 2024. He talked about connecting the dots between Vrabel and the Raiders, mentioning how Brady was getting involved with the team even before his 5 to 10% purchase was approved. We know that's gone through now, but the key point is that Brady and Vrabel are close. This isn't just something that's randomly popping up. The conversation probably went like this. Brady wanted Vrabel, but Davis was caught between that and the fact that Raider Nation wanted Antonio Pierce. Plus, you had players like Max Crosby basically saying they'd want out if AP wasn't brought back. A lot of this AP support came from the Rich Bisaccia situation. So Brady probably said something like, okay, give AP a shot for a year, but if things go south, I want my guy Vrabel in there. And let's be real, a 2-12 record? That's definitely things going south. So these Vrabel rumors, they're not new, and that's really important to understand. The smoke really started picking up around November 6th. Then on November 18th, another report dropped saying Vrabel's the frontrunner if Pierce gets fired. This matches exactly what we've been talking about on this show multiple times. And now on November 18th again, ESPN insider hinted this. So the upcoming season will be something different for the Raiders. I hope so. Now let's talk about the 2025 draft situation. The Raiders and Giants are currently tied for the worst record in the NFL, and there's some interesting quarterback buzz going around. While most insiders are pointing to Caleb Williams as the clear QB1 in this draft, here's something fascinating. ESPN is reporting that multiple sources close to Shedeur Sanders and the Colorado program believe he prefers landing with the Raiders over the Giants. Here's where it gets interesting. The Giants have already tried the young quarterback development route with Daniel Jones. So what if they decide to go a different direction this time? They could target someone like Sam Darnold, who's been showing promise with the Vikings this year. Darnold's on a 2-year deal with Minnesota, but he might want to pursue a starting role elsewhere after taking the Vikings to the playoffs. Or maybe they look at Kirk Cousins. The point is, the Giants might want to avoid another rookie quarterback project altogether. Meanwhile, the Raiders tried the veteran approach with Jimmy Garoppolo and now O'Connell. So they might be ready to go all in on a rookie quarterback. But here's the schedule ahead could really shake things up. Looking at these final games, Jaguars, Saints, Chargers, mostly winnable games, especially with both Jacksonville and New Orleans missing their starting quarterbacks. But here's the thing. Just one win drops the Raiders to 7th pick. 2 wins? Now you're looking at ninth or 10th. That could put them completely out of range for a top quarterback. Speaking of quarterbacks, Aiden O'Connell is back. After all that talk about him sitting out the rest of the season, he's been practicing in full, and Antonio Pierce confirmed he's good to go. But here's the reality check. Winning any of these games could cost the Raiders their shot at a franchise quarterback in the draft. Now, speaking of the Raiders' future, let's talk about someone who's actually showing real progress. Tyree Wilson. The 7th overall pick from last year has been turning heads lately, and there's a lot to break down here. Coming into 2024, everyone was watching Wilson closely. Remember, this is the guy the Raiders picked over Darnell Wright and Jalen Carter, both already looking like top 5 players at their position. The pressure was on to see if this pick would pan out, especially after a rough rookie year. Early this season, I am not going to lie, it didn't look good. During those first 3 to 4 weeks, Wilson was struggling badly. But here's where things get interesting. When Malcolm Kuntze went down, Wilson got more snaps, and something started clicking. Over the past 3 to 4 weeks, Wilson's been showing exactly why the Raiders drafted him 7th overall. Now, he's not playing 50 snaps a game like Max Crosby, but at 6 feet 6 inches, 275 pounds, he's becoming a real problem for opposing offenses. When quarterbacks need time for deep plays to develop, that's when Wilson's starting to feast. The numbers don't lie, 4 sacks this season, with 3 coming in the last 5 games. Plus, he's racking up quarterback hits and consistent pressures. But let's be real here, he's not Max Crosby and he doesn't need to be. Wilson's game is different. He's still developing, still needs to add more than just that bull rush, but the improvement is clear, and here's what's really exciting. Wilson is already an elite run defender. Among our defensive ends, nobody stops the run better than him. In just 396 snaps, he's making a major impact. Now, let's talk about this upcoming Jaguars game. There's some concerning news on the offensive line. Jordan Meredith is doubtful, which means we might see Jackson Powers-Johnson moving back to guard and Andre James at center. Yeah, let's be honest, that's a mistake. Johnson has been a top 3 or 4 center already. Moving him around just doesn't make sense for his development. This game's going to tell us a lot, especially with a guy like Travon Walker coming to town. We'll get to see what DJ Glazier is really made of against some serious pass rushers. Plus, with Josh Jacobs out for the season, it's time to see what Alexander Mattison and maybe even Dylan Lobb can do in the backfield. So the Raiders' future is quite interesting. They have so many things to finalize. Will Tom Brady get his way and bring in Mike Vrabel? And more importantly, should he? Tyree Wilson's finally showing that first-round talent, but remember, these efforts in the next 3 games could change everything about the Raiders' draft position. So what do you think? Who should be the next Raiders coach? Drop MV in the comments if you think Mike Vrabel's the right choice for head coach, or AP if you think Antonio Pierce deserves more time. And hey, what's your take on Shedeur Sanders? Could he be the franchise quarterback the Raiders have been looking for? And the most important question I really want to ask from you guys, who is the responsible of the current Raiders situation? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We've got some huge news coming up about the Raiders' offseason plans that you won't want to miss. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. As always, I've got some great content planned for next week, including a deep dive into the Raiders draft scenarios. Drop your questions about today's video in the comments below, and you might see them featured in the next one.